Welcome to the Wrestling with Story podcast. We're gonna do. I've decided we're doing these like recap episodes, and I thought to myself like, oh, we should come up with like a different classification for them. So I came up. This is brilliant. You guys are gonna love this. We're called. Get ready. Just hold on to your butts, guys. What happened? Come on, pretty good, right? What happened is gonna be my chance to sort of recap what went on PLE's pay-per-views and on the weekly television shows. I talk about them in depth, talk about them again from a story point of view, like I do in everything that we do. But they're just sort of our freeform recap shows. It's my chance to just sort of blather on for a while. I wasn't going to talk about the Heatwave pay-per-view, but it was so good. I ran out here as soon as it was done and hit record. And let's get into it. The show started a little bit early. There was actually a match in the pre-show, which was Ariana Grace and Carmen Petrovic against Jayne and Jasmine Nix. And this was sort of like a last-minute add-on match that they threw in on the show last week. I should add before I start, I do watch NXT virtually every week, but I sort of half watch it. I don't watch it in a lot of depth. I a lot of times will watch it on Wednesday, and Hulu does these like cut downs of the show, so you don't always get the full episodes. A lot of times you get the matches, but you don't always get all the in-between stuff. The episodes get cut down to about an hour 10, which is more than just the commercials being cut out. So I don't always see everything that's going on in NXT, so that's why part of why I generally don't talk about it and don't cover it. So forgive me my lack of knowledge, and if I am forgetting anything, please let me know in the comments what I'm missing or what I get wrong, so I can be educated and be better about it. So this match felt sort of like it was thrown together, but it does have Ariana Grace in it, and Ariana Grace is my favorite thing on all of NXT. She is just an absolute delight in every way, shape, and form. She's hilarious. She's just delightful. Sure enough, she was delightful in this match. I feel like normally when she wrestles, when I have seen her wrestle, she has a Chelsea Green vibe to her. So I think you're starting to see that I have a type when it comes to wrestlers, because I think both Chelsea Green and Ariana Grace have a lot in common with Toni Storm, who I also really like. Although I will say Toni Storm is much more of a baller when it comes to traditional wrestling than I think Ariana Grace, who's still pretty green. But between the two of them, you had, because Carmen Petrovic is much more of a traditional wrestler. She's got like a good sort of shoot style. It was a really good match that was told well between the four of them, and with a really strong, fun ending where Jasmine Nix had Petrovic pinned, and Ariana Grace came and just gave her like a very ladylike shove and flipped the pin. And it was very delightful. Really, 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 really nice. Just a fun, light, a really bubbly match, which is a funny thing to say about a match, but just, a lot of fun. Then the actual show itself started, and we got Oba Femi and Wes Lee for the North American Championship. And Oba Femi is going to be a giant Brock Lesnar-esque star. I think he's been in the past when I've seen him, he's always seemed to be a little bit too green. This is the first time, and maybe it's because he was with Wes Lee, and Wes Lee is just incredible. Wes Lee is just incredibly talented, and even coming back, he's only a month in from coming back from back surgery. But even with that, just the two of them together just put on a masterpiece, and it really put Oba over. Oba just looked like a beast. There was one point when he helicoptered Wes Lee. He just picked him up and just tossed him into the sky, and he just helicoptered off into the distance. It was inhuman. The guy is just a beast, and and he moves. He can really move. He doesn't just feel lumbering. He feels like a threatening monster in a great way. But the match also didn't feel one-sided. Because Wes Lee is so good, Wes Lee really kept the pace up, and he kept his offense up. They told a great story the entire time. It really just felt fresh and fast, which generally when you have one guy who is sort of a big lumbering guy against anybody, you don't get. And so the fact that they managed to sort of just really keep the pace and keep everything going is pretty amazing. And Oba just grabs him and just tosses him around like you've never seen. I mean, really just feats of strength. They're setting Oba Femi up for when the time comes that he goes to the main roster, he's going to be a main eventer instantly. And you can tell just by the way that he's getting trained that they're getting there pretty quickly. I think he's not great on the mic, but he's getting there. Interestingly, because he gets such a great reaction from the audience when he talks, so you would think that he could just sort of give into it, but he seems to fight against it. And I think that's something that he's going to learn pretty quickly. The more time they give him to cut promos, the better he's going to get at it. All right, and that moved us on to Kehlani Jordan versus Sol Ruca for the Women's North American Championship. And, I think the latter match they did for the North American Championship was good. It was a little chaotic and a little bit all over the place, so I wasn't wild about it. This I was wild about. They did amazing work. I mean this in the absolute best way possible. This felt like an AEW match. And, a lot of people complain that everybody who comes out of the Performance Center looks the same and does all the same moves. This was not that. They did a long promo about how Kehlani Jordan has a gymnastics background and Sol Ruca has a surfing background and how that has influenced their styles. And so they went the extra mile in the match to showcase that. And so you had just amazing moves, just 450 splashes and a poison hurricanrana that was a Frankensteiner from the top rope, buckshot. There was a buckshot 450. I mean, the match was filled with insane spots, and these two women brought it. And what was interesting is that, they made a really big deal in the build up to it about how close a friend the two of them are. So there was no story, right? There was no competition. There was no animosity between them. And they let the story be about this as a shoot fight between the two of them, which normally when you're doing that kind of story, you'd want it to have a more, for lack of a better expression, realistic style. But the fact that they were each doing these insane spots almost contributed to making it feel more realistic because of the friendship that was played between them and because of the friendship that they really built, that they were giving it this reality, even though what they were doing were these insane moves that could only work in a wrestling match that was very strictly planned, but it worked. It really worked. They really sold. There was a few missed spots here and there, but they were just incredible. Yeah, the buckshot clothesline 450 thing that Ruca did was, if I was Hangman Adam Page, I would retire it. I would retire his buckshot clothesline because this thing is so much better. Just Jesus Christ, it was ridiculous looking. Ultimately, Kehlani Jordan won, and she retained the title, and then you had the nice moment of the Kehlani holding up Sol Ruca's hand and in co-celebration together. Again, I know it sounds funny, but it's a very AEW match also for that reason, right? Because AEW has a lot of these sort of pure competition matches that just have the feel of two people who respect each other. And that's the only reason that we're doing it is out of respect. And this match had that very much. It was so story light. It was really only about the respect that they show for each other. And, I'm a fan of that. There was a short little segment about Gallus. It was fine. I can live without the Gallus stuff in general. I feel they're not doing any favors for Gallus with all the little bits that they've been doing. And again, maybe that's because I'm seeing these cut down episodes that don't have all of it, but I've not been particularly wowed by any of it. Then we go back and Ava, who is the general manager, congratulates Ariana Grace and Carmen Petrovic about their win earlier before the show started, and just an amazing bit of storytelling. Ariana takes all the credit for the entire match, of which she should not. It's just delightful and charming, and she says to Carmen that she will never team with her again because why would she? She is nothing but a drag on her amazing career that she does not actually have. Just delightful. And so Ava books a match between them for Tuesday, which is nice. Then again, another match that on paper does not sound like it's going to be a banger, but Axiom and Nathan Frazier versus Chase U. They've been playing this story that Axiom and Nathan Frazier are at odds because Axiom wants Nathan Frazier to stop essentially cheating on him by going out and trying to get singles titles. It's literally like he thinks he's cheating on him. It's weird. It's a weird choice. When we actually got to the match, it was a banger. Again, just a top the tail banger. Andre Chase and Duke Hudson, the Chase U gimmick, when I look at it, I can't imagine it anywhere other than NXT. It's hard to sort of see any of those guys and what they're gonna do when they get out of NXT and move on to the main roster. That being said, Duke Hudson is a beast. He's really good. For a guy his size, he moves like a guy who's much smaller. He's really limber. He's really fast. He just looks amazing. He did Stratisfaction for some reason, Trish Stratus's move. They are in Toronto, so why not? It was a match that went back and forth. It really felt like the story that they were telling, that they set us up to believe, is that Axiom and Nathan Frazier were going to drop the titles. And they didn't. They kept it going, and they really told, again, just a great story. And when you got to the end of the match, it really felt like these two teams both come out of it sort of moving forward in their individual stories while ending this. We're not going to see any more between them, right? This was just sort of two individual stories that had nothing to do with each other coming together for the sake of a match and getting a really good match out of it while still making the match really compelling, which again, I don't want to keep saying it's a very AEW thing, but man, it's a very AEW thing. These stories really have nothing to do with each other. They don't really touch. They, right now, Chase University is doing a story about Ridge cheated for them recently, and they are outraged at cheating. And so, Ridge Holland, sorry. So, they're doing this whole story with Ridge Holland, and Ridge Holland wasn't invited to the pay-per-view, and they're going to have to deal with him and his cheating ways. And, that has absolutely bugger all to do with what's going on in the rest of the story, and with the story with Axiom and Nathan Frazier. Nathan Frazier and Axiom's cheating heart story has obviously nothing to do with Chase U, but at the same time, they let the interpersonal dynamics that each side is going through influence the match. They let the story that was happening to each team sort of direct the way that the match was going. And so because of that, we actually got a better match out of it, which is a really neat trick. It was really good. It was really pleasurable. And then we got a little bit of Wesley whining. It's been I think a problem. I think you have a guy that good, you let him take his hits and keep going. I don't know that you need to make him complaining about how he's not good enough and that he's going to have to go home. I think the top line of it was how he needs to go home and have a think. I don't know. And then up next was probably the match of the night, Lola Vice and Roxanne Perez. I think the popular opinion was that Roxanne Perez was going to drop the title to Lola Vice. Lola Vice is really over. People love her to death. They gave her this insane promo this last week where she went into the story of her life and how her mother was dying, and so she became a fighter in order to, I guess, pay for her mom to get healthy, and how all she ever wanted to do was to call her mom and tell her she was a champion, and that's her goal, and that's why she does what she does. And it was a really emotional, moving promo, really good, really, I think, got her the extra little bit of the way over. And then Roxanne Perez was just a total asshole to her about it, really dynamic and really good. So it really felt we were working towards that. Then on top of that, Lola Vice is a total shit kicker, and they've really built her up to be just a complete monster. So it made sense that this was going to be the thing that brought Roxanne Perez down. But then we actually got into the match, and after giving Lola really great, again, just a really great assault and making her look like a badass, Perez got her to, she made a mistake. She punched the ring post, and then Roxanne Perez does what she does, which is act like a terrible, shitty heel, and just totally went to work on that arm. As she went about wrecking her, she just was vicious, and just so vicious and so conniving. And then ultimately, after just going a wild animal after that arm, she hit her finishing move 4 times. One of them I think was a botch, but it was okay because she then immediately pops right back up and did it again. But she hit her finishing move, I think, 4 times in a row on Lola Vice, and retained her championship. And it was, again, you watch it and you're like, oh yeah, that woman is gonna go huge when she gets to the main roster. This whole show, I have to say, felt like an amazing showcase for the next generation of stars. And I feel like it hasn't always, the NXT pay-per-views, the past few of them, haven't actually felt like that. This one, every single match felt like it. Every single match. Then, what was there? Let me see. Let me check my notes. Oh, then we had Lexis King, who is a delight, and I'm sort of surprised they haven't done more with him. I don't know why, because he's I think he's great in the ring. He's super charming. And it does their favorite thing, which is to show up AEW by taking an AEW star and making them look like a superstar. He came out, he did a whole thing about Eddie Thorpe, and then he went on about how he's going to fight Tony D'Angelo for the Heritage Cup, and then Tony D'Angelo had a promo that he cut in response. And then our main event, which was a four-corner match for the NXT Championship. All Ego Ethan Page, Shawn Spears, Javon Evans, and Trick Williams. Guys, what a match. What they managed to do in this match is to make all four guys look hot as hell. They really did. If I were to pick an MVP, it's probably Javon Evans, which I suppose was probably the point, right? The guy's only been there for a few months, and they clearly have decided he's the guy. So Javon Evans there was a crazy spot where he went over the ring post, landed a dive that put Trick through the dividers, the timekeepers area. That was amazing. Trick bounced him off the ropes into the announce table. He had a bunch of just flips that were crazy. He had, I guess it was a Canadian destroyer. I don't even know how you describe it. Off the top rope that was just amazing. He really had just an amazing match. At the same time, Ethan Page got put over as such a great heel. He's like outside the ring being a coward. Every chance he gets to like steal a pin, he's stealing pins from the other guys. Just being the perfect quintessential heel. His ring outfit that he came out in, he is Canadian and they're in Canada. And he came out wearing an outfit that said U.S. resident, a U.S. president, a U.S. resident that was red, white, and blue. I mean, what a great heel move. Really delightful. Just really, really delightful. And then Trick Williams, same thing as everybody else that I've talked about tonight. Trick Williams he's ready to be main roster. I think that he's moved up leaps and bounds in the past 6 months. He's gotten so much better in the ring. His look is amazing. He's so over with the crowd. This match, doing a four corners match, is really hard. And I think, look, there's a reason that they had it be with Shawn Spears and Ethan Page, because those two guys are much more experienced than Trick and Javon, obviously. And, Shawn and Ethan were clearly directing traffic the whole time. Specifically Shawn, I think. I think Shawn was probably doing the most traffic directing out of everybody. But, it didn't feel like it. It really felt fluid. It really felt like it kept going. I saw a bunch of people complaining online about the ending. The ending to this match was, I think, delightful. Trick Williams hits the trick shot on Javon, right? And then bounces off the ropes and hits it on All Ego. Then Page falls down on top of Javon. Trick Williams goes to get All Ego off of Javon as Shawn goes to grab Trick Williams to stop him from pinning either of the other two guys. The net result being that Ethan Page actually pins, while unconscious, Javon. When I say it out loud, it does sound very convoluted. I get it. But it is, in watching it and seeing it all happen, it was so fluid and so smart and so funny. And it does something really good, which is Trick still won. He knocked out the two guys who are responsible for the win, right? Spears lost the match. It's Spears' fault that the match was lost. So Spears loses. So Spears is sort of off the table. Ethan Page wins the belt in a humiliating way, which for a guy whose name is All Ego, to win in a humiliating way is exactly how you want him to win, right? And of course, Javon Evans, because he's the baby, because he has only been here for a few months, of course he has to take the loss and he gets no slack for it. So it really is kind of the perfect ending. Like, it's how you get the belt off Trick in a good way. And now you can do one of two things. If you wanted to, you can move Trick out of NXT. If you want to keep Trick as the hero chasing the belt, he now has a reason and a legitimate beef to try and get that rematch that makes a lot of sense, which is what I'm guessing they're going to do. I thought it was delightful. Everybody who's telling you it wasn't delightful, I think, is wrong, and you should go watch it for yourself if you want to see. So yeah, that was Heatwave. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, especially, I was really lukewarm on Money in the Bank. I was not lukewarm on this. I thought all 6 matches, I think, technically, all 6 matches were fantastic. It was just a thrill ride. It genuinely was a lot of fun. It was really light and really fluffy, but I think, wrestling and from WWE has a tendency to be really heavy. Yesterday was a good example of that. Every match felt like it had heavy stakes attached to it. And even though every single match tonight had a title attached to it, except for the first one, even with titles attached to it, there was still sort of a frothiness to all of them. And that frothiness was like, oh, right, this is why I love professional wrestling. Because sometimes I just want to see people doing incredible things that I could never do in a million years and having a blast doing it. So highly recommended. I really hope you check it out if you haven't. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, you can either subscribe to the video podcast over on YouTube at Wrestling with Story, or you can subscribe to us on iTunes or on Spotify or anywhere that you get your finest podcasts to both video or audio. And of course, we're on Instagram, also at Wrestling. All of these are at Wrestling with Story. I don't know why if I keep saying it, maybe you guys will actually listen. If you subscribe, what you're actually doing is making sure that I can keep doing this. It's my favorite thing I've ever done. I really enjoy it. The more subscribers I get, the closer we get to being able to do this and make money. And making money is a way to do this so that we can actually, do it for real. So please do me a favor, hit follow, rate, subscribe. Every time you hit a rating, that helps us climb the charts. Right now we have, 4 listeners, so there's not a lot of chart climbing that we can do, but I would love it. Do me a favor, hit subscribe. That's a long pitch. I really just did a very long pitch for why you should hit subscribe. So maybe you should hit subscribe. Do me a favor. Thank you guys so much. Comments below. Let me know what you thought of the show. Let me know what you thought of Heatwave, and we will see you tomorrow for Monday Night Raw. We'll see you then. Take care. I should add, it ended with the greatest flash frame imaginable. I believe in Joe Hendry. Who could ask for anything more?